Welcome. This is the Living a Revenue Culture podcast. And for those of you who've been with us before, this one's going to be a little different. Instead of a guest coming in and having a good conversation about what it's like to live a revenue culture out there in the real world, we're going to take a look at 2023 and reflect, and then we're going to look forward. And not just to 2024, but hopefully to well beyond 2024. So, just to make sure we all know what living a revenue culture means, those of you who've been with us before know what we're going to tell you, and it's not consultant speak. It's not just academic, nice conversation, sounds like it feels good at Christmas. But living a revenue culture is only when you have maximized profits, and you can only maximize profits when you first optimize people. It's people who are innovative, collaborative, customer intimate. They're the ones who create, they're the ones who manage, they're the ones who do everything. And when we talk about people, it's not just about the people who are on the team and get a check. It's the investors, it's the leadership team. It is every single solitary employee in the business, but it's also your business partners. Your business partners are either very good at helping you live a revenue culture or not so good. It's certainly the customer, and it's your ideal customer is part of living a revenue culture, because you'll never maximize your profits unless you're dealing with ideal buyers, ideal customers. And then it's also the community. The community includes not just the neighborhood, but your family. Because nobody is going to optimize their work or their ability to transfer value to their ideal buyers if they're struggling at home. So when we think about living a revenue culture, we're painting a very big picture. And we don't control all of it, but we certainly do control a lot of things that happen at work. And sometimes we have to do a little extra work, but the benefits are immense for everybody. So that's what we're talking about when we say living a revenue culture. So as we look back at 2023, we're going to talk about a couple of major changes that they've been coming for a while, but not all of us really recognize them. One of them is the boomers are on their way out. And so when you think about what that means, that the boomers are on their way out, and about half of them are gone right now, that certainly eliminates a huge part of the workforce. And right now, there isn't another generation that is picking up the empty slots left by the boomers. The other part of just the fact that there's empty slots, the boomers had a lot of knowledge. They had a lot of tribal history. They knew how to do things. They had relationships, connections. And so we've got to replace all of those things that are part of the loss of the boomers. And part of that is boomers had processes that they created and probably liked. And as we go forward, not only are our employees generationally changing, but our buyers are generationally changing. The boomers in the market aren't buying what they bought 10 or 20 years ago. They're not buying new big homes for their kids and their toys and all that kind of stuff. They're figuring out, how am I going to live the last years of my life in probably a simpler kind of way. So with the boomers moving out to live a revenue culture, we've got to figure out what that really means, both internally, and that probably means changing a lot of the things we're doing, and externally, because the customer group out there, whether it's a B2B or B2C, are changing in both cases. The second thing, and it's again related to population, is we're never going to have enough employees, at least for the next 25 to 30 years. The math on the population, generation by generation, is there just going to be more jobs than people. And not only are there going to be more jobs than people, but they're going to be more technically required kinds of jobs. And if you think about people we hired 5 years ago, and we hired them for a very particular set of skills, 5 years later, if they haven't either refreshed their skills or really changed what you hired them to do, you're wondering, can you still afford them? So when we hire the right people, and if we think about living a revenue culture, one of the first things is what's the purpose that the organization has that people sign up for? If you really want to maximize your profits, you're going to have people who are personally fulfilled by helping the organization transfer the value that its purpose uh, dictates. And so if you hire people who really believe in what you're doing and they're really committed to it, you better figure out how to continually evolve those people, because whatever set of skills you hired them for, the world has changed drastically in the last 5 years, and that change is not going to stop. So we need to have a whole new focus inside our organizations about how do I hire the people who are the right people? They fit who we are and where we're going, even though they need to continually evolve their technology or their skill set or their interpersonal relationships. So as we think about living a revenue culture, one is we're going to be losing the boomers. The second thing is we've got a group of people coming in that are coming up. Hopefully they're part of your succession plan. Hopefully they're part of your team and technology development. And since you never are going to have enough of them again, at least not for 25 or 30 years, capacity is going to be one of the new words. And capacity, those of you who've gone out and bought electric vehicles, you think about the capacity of the battery to get you where you're going. We also think about capacity in a lot of other ways. But going forward, capacity related to living a revenue culture is going to be about how do I, by creating a great culture, by creating a group of people who are committed to maximizing the value they transfer to ideal buyers. How do I get those people to create new, different ways to transfer more and more and more value, even though I'm going to have less and less, and certainly less and less of the people who are immediately, instantly prepared to come in and do the work. So I was at a conference recently, and a young gentleman came in and told a story. And he told the story of starting a new business, and he invested his life savings, and he designed this business from scratch. He created the building from scratch. He put all the equipment in the building from scratch. He hired, I think it was like 10 people that would really optimize this building and optimize the outcome. And after about a year, they were up to doing $1 million in revenue, which maybe was good or bad, but he wasn't even getting his paycheck. He was paying them, he was paying the heat, light, and mortgage, but he wasn't getting anything out of it. And they believed at $1 million, they were at 90% capacity. Well, he took a step back and he decided maybe I need to make an investment in my people, in my culture, in how we work together, in how we think about transferring value to ideal buyers in a different way. So you fast forward it, now they're at $2 million, same building, same equipment, same people. And instead of being at 90% capacity, which was at 1 million, now at 2 million, they're at 70% capacity. If you do the math, somehow he increased his capacity at least 50%. So now, same people, same building, all of a sudden he's able to deliver about 2.5 times as much as he thought he could deliver just a few months ago. Every one of us has got to figure out how to do that. When we look at companies, two metrics that we all should pay attention to going forward is what's the amount of top line revenue my company creates for each employee. And this data is available every place by industry and by company size. And you can look at in your industry or those people who you think are like you, what's their gross revenue per employee? And then the second question is, what's their net profit per employee? Now, for you to do that for your own company, it's really simple. How many employees do you have? What's your top line and bottom line? You divide the number of employees into the top line, that's your total revenue per employee, and divide number of employees into your profit, and that's the amount of profit per employee. Now, just to give you a range, in some industries, in some companies, profit per employee is negative because the company's not making any profit. But across an industry, some industries, they only make about 25,000 per employee. Yet, if you were Apple, which we all know is a huge manufacturing, engineering, research, customer services kind of business, their employees don't make 25,000. Their employees make $2.4 million of profit per employee. Now you think that's good, but if you were Netflix, a lot less employees, they don't manufacture, they do make movies, but they don't manufacture, they make $2.7 million per employee. So it's a capacity thing. Both of those companies have figured out how to transfer maximum amount of value to customers who are absolutely willing to pay for that value. And so consequently, just imagine the different investment that each of those companies can make in employee education, employee health, employee career development, and of course, technology and support so that each employee can actually do the job they were hired to do with all the tools and all the training and all the things in place so that they get to do really great creative work and not have to worry about, are they going to get a paycheck this week? So as you look back on 2023, just recognize that the market has changed as it relates to people. The generations are changing, and that's going to require us to have a completely different set of processes, methodologies, how we hire, who we hire, what expectations we set when we hire. All those things are changing. And the second thing to recognize is capacity is going to be one of the most important things you're going to need to learn to manage around, to lead around, to set the expectations when you hire people. This is a place where we're going to continually learn. We're going to continually get better. We value you as a person because you're committed to the same delivery of value to our ideal buyers that we are. You support the same purpose that we support. But for us to be around for the next, as Jim Collins would say, 100 years, or as Simon Sinek would say, to have an infinite company, a company that doesn't try and get to next quarter to flip the company, take the cash and buy an island. We're here because we're doing something that makes the world a better place. So those are the things as we look back. Now, as we look forward, first thing I want us to think about going forward, and as we think about building our culture, there are two kinds of cultures. There's three choices, but two cultures. The two cultures are this infinite, as Simon Sinek would say, or 100-year culture, as Jim Collins would say, where we're really here to make a difference. We're here to have an impact on the world, and we're going to make a lot of money while we do that, but that's what we're here for. The second culture is a mercenary culture. And depending on where you live in the country, if you're in Florida and you just had a hurricane, you've probably seen a lot of mercenary roofers or plumbers or construction handymen show up every time there's a hurricane. Because when there's a lot of homes with no roofs, you probably have outstripped the local roofers in order to be able to put roofs back on in a short period of time. So people literally show up after a hurricane or tornadoes or a flood, and they show up in town. They know how to work with the insurance companies. They take care of getting the roof back on, and as soon as they're all capacitied out, they get out of town and go do it someplace else or play golf. That's a mercenary. Nothing wrong with being a mercenary, but you create a different culture, and you're not an infinite company. You're not thinking about how are we going to continue to grow and scale and take care of our people and their families for the next 100 years. It's not part of your thinking. Now, you can run a good company, you can make money, you can hire a bunch of people who like to do mercenary work. That's terrific. The other one, of course, is big purpose, and that's what we've been talking about as we think about living this 100-year revenue culture. And you start with a purpose, and you really do care about partnering. You want to partner with both your ideal buyers, and you want to partner with your team and your investors and your community. So they're very different things. So you get to make a choice going forward. Which one of those two are you? Now, the third choice, there's two options, but three choices. The third choice is you're not going to decide. And if you don't decide which of those you're going to be, what happens is people don't know who you are. Your employees don't know who you are. They don't know if they're going to have a job for a long period. They don't know if you're going to support them in a career path. They don't have any idea. And your customers don't know if they're doing business with a business partner or they're doing business with a vendor who's going to make as much money off of us as they can in a short period of time and disappear. So as you go forward into 2024, what I'm asking you to think about is, are you a short-term mercenary kind of company, in which case just make as much money as you can while you have the opportunity? Or are you a long-term infinite thinker who's trying to make the world a better place? And you're trying to build a revenue culture where you maximize your profits because you've optimized your people, and you're going to be investing those profits back into those people for decades. I worked with a builder early in my career who he was the best builder I've ever seen. He could build a great house from scratch, empty ground, in 30 days. And as I studied him, I learned about him. He could do it because he had the same contractors working for him that had worked for his father 30 years before. Now, it was second generation. You know, maybe the parents were still there as managers, but the kids were the ones doing the work. But they worked so well together. They understood each other. They knew the purpose. They knew the plan. And they knew that the contractor was reinvesting in the subcontractors. So the subcontractors got better and better and better. And at that point, the subcontractors had already been on like a 40-year agreement, and it certainly went for another 25 that I know. So you just get a different kind of business and a different kind of result when you look to the future in a different way. So I guess that's about all I want to talk about today. Hopefully I'm not taking up too much of your holiday or not wasting your time. I hope you're getting something to reflect on, and I hope you have things to be thankful for 2023. And I hope you're excited and compelled to go into 2024 because of the changes. We need more people who really are intentionally building a revenue culture. So I hope we planted a couple of seeds for that. I want to wish you a wonderful, wonderful holiday season, Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. And coming in January, we'll go back to our normal process, and you'll get to hear somebody from the community who's out there working on living a revenue culture and working on making the world a better place. Thanks for joining us today, and hopefully we'll see you in a few weeks.